not receive a majority of votes on the first ballot, the voting would continue until a candidate does receive that majority. Voting for the Speaker of the 114th Congress will be decided on Tuesday. A 7-year-old Illinois girl is being heralded as brave after she walked nearly a mile from the site of a plane crash to get help. Sailor Gutzler was traveling home with her family when the private plane they were on crashed into a dense Kentucky forest. Gutzler's mother, father, 9-year-old sister, and 14-year-old cousin were killed in the crash. Barefoot and in the dark with temps below 40 degrees, Gutzler walked to the house of 71-year-old Larry Wilkins. Wilkins called 911 and Gutzler was taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. She sustained only minor injuries. Investigators from the FAA and NTSB are working with local law enforcement to determine the cause of the crash. New York City police officer Wen Jianlu was laid to rest Sunday with thousands of mourners paying their respects. But tensions remained between the police force and Mayor Bill de Blasio, with several officers turning their backs in protest as de Blasio eulogized Liu. This action comes as the widow of Liu and Police Commissioner Bill Bratton asked officers not to turn their backs as the mayor spoke, with Bratton saying in a written statement, quote, "A hero's funeral is about grieving, not grievance." Liu's widow spoke at the funeral saying of her husband, "To me, he is my soulmate. Wen Jian is an incredible husband, son, co-worker, and friend, my best friend." The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows the coldest days of the year are ahead for much of the country. The organization released a map based on 30 years of temperature data indicating the eastern half of the country can expect the coldest days of the year to fall between now and the middle of February. Forecasters are calling for bitterly cold temps and below-zero wind chills for parts of the Midwest through the next week. And the sporting world said goodbye to former ESPN anchor Stuart Scott, who lost his battle with cancer Sunday at the age of 49. Diagnosed with the disease in 2007, Scott fought valiantly. In an emotional tribute, colleague and friend Rich Eisen said, quote, "I loved this man. I still love this man, and the fact that he has passed away is absolutely mind-boggling and a travesty." Eisen became emotional several times during his tribute. Scott leaves behind 2 daughters, Taylor and Sydney. This is Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for January 5th.
Kick your shoes off, sit down by the campfire, and hang with us for a while. Dude, we got to get rid of that. Anyway, welcome back to the second hour of The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausen. Great to be back. Michael, what we did not do, top of the first hour, is pimp ourselves as we normally do, and there's no one better at doing that than you.
I'm happy to take over the pimping role. I did mention before the break, if you'd like to call in, please do. We love phone calls. 412-567-6879. Our website is therightmics.us. We put up interesting articles to us, also a summary every day of the show, the articles we talk about, links, archives, the things that we talk about, and from where we're getting this information. We put all that stuff up. Also, our Twitter handle, we're up to almost 500 followers on Twitter at this point, is at The Right Mics.
Perfect. All right, listen, you wrote an article a couple of days ago. I don't know if we've mentioned IJR studs that we are, but IJReview.com, at least today. Excuse me, allergies. But you put up an article a couple of days ago. As I look, it's right at 100,000 views. It struck close to my heart because not only do I like a properly prepared omelet, but I make a damn mean one. So apparently something's going on in your neck of the woods that might make my omelet more expensive this year.
Well, yeah, Mike. Frankly, when you say mean omelet, as a Californian, I immediately get a little defensive on the behalf of the chickens because they're treated poorly. You say mean, and I immediately think the obvious question is, why aren't all chickens free range? They should be. They should be allowed just as much room to run around in as toddlers are during recess. Now, starting January 1st, there's a new animal welfare law that's applying to hens in any of these egg-producing factories, and that is that eggs need more room. And here's the deal: is a lot of the eggs from the country come from the Midwest, of course, but if you're selling eggs in California, you have to abide by requirements. So we as Californians are prohibiting eggs from being imported from those manufacturers, those suppliers that don't follow the new rules. And because California, we're the largest consumer of eggs in the country, and roughly 1/3 of the eggs that Californians consume are imported. So what happens is that all of the literal hen houses, they need to be expanded to have more room so that these chickens are treated more humanely. And obviously, there is a cost for all of the egg producers across the country to adjust the size of their hen houses.
So let's back up the bus a little bit, because, being an ignorant Midwesterner, is that how I say it? Ignorant Midwesterner here.
I think that might just be redundant, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, see, there you go. But, dude, please explain free range to me. Like, what's a free range chicken? I mean,
free range chickens, and those are the special, much more expensive eggs.
Right.
And that also, it's not just the eggs that they produce, but it's also the chicken breasts and whatever other, the chickens are involved in the process of producing eggs. They're committed to the process of producing actual chicken meat, of course.
Right.
Fully committed. Free-range chickens are those that are not kept cooped up in pens. They're actually allowed to run free.
Well, but they got to have some boundaries, right?
Well, yeah, but it's not a 12-inch by 18-inch little box that they're in, or whatever the requirements are. Free-range chickens, I'm sure that there is some sort of organic, lefty, Santa Monica influenced rule that defines, if the pen that the chicken is kept in is above a certain amount of square feet,
then they're free.
It's considered free range. If it's smaller than that, they can't be labeled free range.
Right.
In fact, you know what, Mike, why don't you talk for a second, and let me just, for the sake of our listeners, let me just do a little bit of work here on the internet to figure out exactly what is a free range definition.
Because this is very important to our liberal listeners, as if we have any. If something's going to be called free range, damn it, then I, as a liberal, would want to know exactly what that meant. Just as I want to know when something is called sustainable, I want to know what the hell that means as well, because I do not want to, again, pretending that I'm a liberal, don't want to come down on the wrong side of that thing. So yes, free range and sustainable, extremely important.
Well, here's what they say, is that a certain part of it is free-range chicken is a bird that is allowed constant access to the outdoors, fresh vegetation, sunshine, and room to exercise. It's also not been giving any chemicals. Now, you cannot just give your penned-up chicken a universal set inside his little cage for exercise purposes and consider him free range. So it's got to be he has to have room to run, and not just run back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Because that would be cruel. And he has to be able to exercise when he or she, the hen, obviously, when they want to, and in the manner in which they choose to exercise.
That's exactly right. According to this article that I'm looking at, less than 0.05% of chickens are being raised free range. So that means 99.95% of chickens are not free range.
I think we need to mount a campaign because of that that's an atrocity.
And I think that atrocity only works if you say it meaning all caps for the word atrocity.
Exactly.
But
anyway,
I still can't find exactly
the dimensions of a free range.
What the dimensions would be, because the picture that shows here okay, that's very funny. The picture here is like this little shed that's about 10 foot by 10 foot, and then there's a several hundred thousand, not 100,000, several 100-yard wide
fenced-in area or what?
Fenced-in area, yeah. My daughter's horses were not given this much room to run around. So there's like, this picture shows like 60 chickens, and it's like the size of 2 football fields. And that's the example. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably, given that, oh gosh, what did this one statistic I just saw? It just killed me. The amount this is so awesome. In 2010, there were 36 billion pounds of chicken produced. If this particular picture that I'm looking at of an example of a free range, the entire circumference of the 48 states would not be large enough to accommodate.
That would be some expensive ass chicken meat and eggs, wouldn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's maybe if you're on a really large ranch in Marin County, that's the way your free range chickens will be run. But my guess would be that deep within, at except for just the absolute wacko fringe, my guess would be of the 0.05% free range chicken producers, I'd say that 2/3 of them are capitalists just like everybody else. And they're out there with their tape measures just making sure that whatever the limits acceptably defined for free range are, that they're not taking up 1 square millimeter larger than that which will allow them to advertise as free range. It's not 4 chickens per 100 square yards.
There needs to, Phyllis always talks about apps. Maybe for chicken farmers, there should be like a free range app, that would allow you to calculate, how much space you got to have. Because, listen, I'm pretty sure these people also not into veal, right? If you know anything about veal and how that all happens. So what, excuse me, bottom line, what is this going to do to my omelet?
Oh, what it's going to do. I just found it, Mike. The European Union does have it, by the way. Open air runs is 2,500 hens per hectare.
Hectare.
1 hen per 4 square meters. So 4 square meters is 2 meters by 2 meters. So that's a 6.5 foot by 6.5 foot section. So as long as your hen is in a 6.5 by 6.5 foot pen, you can consider it free range. Now I don't know about you, man, but when I hear people talking about free range and there's a picture of 6 hens running around a football field, I'm not thinking 6.5 feet by 6.5 feet.
See, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's like a big closet. That's not free range. That poor chicken can't run and do what it wants to do. The whole thing's a charade, man.
There's sufficient number of shelters, drinking troughs within the meaning of the provision are evenly distributed throughout the whole open air run with at least 4 shelters. It's just... Oh man, I'm looking at all the details of this and it's so awesome.
So when it comes to be egg laying time, does somebody just carve out a spot in one of these shelters? Because, it's kind of like a communal birthing, if you will. I mean, how does that all work out? Like, where do you lay your eggs? You just decide?